Hi everyone, Al the Psych here. I'm going to give you another presentation today. This one is on amygdala hijack. I just love that term, amygdala hijack. As usual, this is informational purposes only. If I make mistakes, you do your own due diligence to double check on what I've said, so the responsibility kind of, goes back to you in terms of accuracy. Anyway, I think I got most of it correct. So what is the amygdala? The amygdala is an almond-shaped structure, nuclei, that's in the brain, that's part of the limbic system. And actually, there are two amygdalae, I guess would be the way you would pronounce it. I'm not a neuropsychologist. Yeah, so you have one in each hemisphere, but I'm just going to say amygdala, okay? So the limbic system is very involved in regulating emotions, and the main purpose of the amygdala is to regulate emotions like fear and aggression. So, an amygdala hijack, and that term was coined by Daniel Goleman back in the mid-1990s, I think it was. An amygdala hijack is basically what it does is triggers a fear response, such as fight, flight, or freeze. I imagine you've heard of that, fight, flight, freeze. And it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, and which causes an influx in stress hormones like cortisol, things like that. And so then you get physical symptoms that could occur, like sweating, increased heart rate, shakiness. You might get a little shakiness in your fingers. You would notice it there first, kind of in a fine motor area. You can get it in your voice. It's not my shakiness. It's just because I think I have postnasal drip or something. But anyway, that's beyond the point. So, unfortunately, while the fight, flight, or freeze response may be beneficial if you're in a fight for your life, so somebody's attacking you, and you have to respond quickly, muscles have to come into action, you're going to have that cortisol influx, adrenaline's going to be flowing, or you want to be able to run fast, or if a mountain lion sees you, maybe you want to freeze and not run, so you don't trigger an attack response from that big cat that wants to eat you. That's a legitimate reason for your body to respond with fight, flight, or freeze. But unfortunately, it becomes problematic when situations that don't warrant fight, flight, or freeze happen, and it kicks in. So for example, maybe you have a fear of public speaking, which is a major fear for a lot of people. So you might get into that panicky mode, that fight, flight, or freeze sort of sensation, or whatever phobia that that you might experience. If you're afraid of small spaces, if you're claustrophobic and you go into an elevator or something like that, and the door shuts, and then for some reason elevator's not working correctly, that could really trigger a fear response, a fight, flight, freeze sort of scenario. Social anxiety, if you're in a situation with a group of people, again, that could be triggered. So there's times when there's really no significant threat to you, but that amygdala hijack kicks in, even though there's really no reason for it to kick in, because there's really no threat to you. It also could, kick in if you're having an argument, and maybe the argument escalates to the point where you're screaming or somebody else is screaming at you, to the point where that person is just, enraged, not really thinking too clearly because that limbic system, the amygdala, it's kind of just hijacked the whole uh, rational brain, basically. So now you may try and talk yourself down if you're in that particular situation, like an amygdala hijack. And that's fine, but it's not really the best way to deal with an amygdala hijack. That would be considered, if you're just saying, talking to yourself and trying to rationalize your way out of it. It's going to take a lot longer going the top to bottom route. I'll talk about that in a little bit, as opposed to the bottom up approach, which is the recommended way of dealing with anxiety and, in this case, the amygdala hijack. So a top-down approach is a cognitive approach. You tell yourself there's nothing to worry about or to be scared of because there isn't. We're not in a real danger situation. But as the social psychologist Jonathan Haidt said, he gave an analogy. He said the rational part of the brain is the writer, and the emotional part of the brain is the elephant. So we've got the writer, and then we've got the elephant. And if you try and overrule the elephant rationally, well, the big elephant, kind of hard to tame that way. Okay, so wherever the elephant wants to go, the rider better just hang on. So when the emotional brain is operating, the bottom up approach works best, and that's when you calm yourself through all the tools in the toolbox that you have. For example, deep, slow, rhythmic belly breathing, mantra chanting, meditation, progressive muscle relaxation, and some of these things I'll talk about in other presentations. Visualization, I love visualization. So, you can just start trying to imagine yourself in a place that is very calming to you. And you could be doing that while you're working on your muscle relaxation. It's kind of hard to be real anxious when you've been able to relax your muscles, tightening your muscles, relaxing them, and just kind of working down the body. Progressive relaxation, things like that are what are considered bottom up strategies, okay, as opposed to top down strategies. So the limbic system kind of picks up on these bodily and sensory sensations, as you're breathing and slowing it down. So it picks up on that much more quickly than on a rational cognitive cue or statement that you're telling yourself. So once the body starts picking up on, I noticed that my heart is slowing down. Oh, I noticed that my breathing is calm and deep and rhythmic. Oh, I noticed that my muscles are relaxed. So as the rational part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, is picking up on these cues, it kind of works hand in hand then with your limbic system, and you can get yourself out of that amygdala hijack. Now, it would be best, of course, if you're actually aware of any little signs or cues that you might be headed toward being hijacked, because that way you can kind of intervene quicker. The quicker you can intervene, the easier it's going to be to reduce the severity of the amygdala hijack. You may be able to, kind of just sidestep it, not even have to deal with it. It might just be just kind of a normal bout of some anxiety, as opposed to, a full-fledged amygdala hijack where you're in panic mode. Okay. So, one other thing, I was talking about anxiety, panic attack, basically, the amygdala hijack and how it's, your anxiety level is just kind of keyed in, and so you work with a bottom-up approach. The reverse would be true for, if you're dealing with depression, then that cognitive rational sort of way of dealing with things does make sense, so then you'd go with a top-down approach, and you can kind of challenge your rational thoughts and things like that. And that, too, is another presentation. So I hope that makes sense. As always, do your homework and double check on what I said just to make sure I got it accurately. And, leave your comments below. And if you're going to criticize, make sure that you do it nicely. Okay. Thank you.